This video is going to be chilly. Like, freakishly frigid. I've dug through the Disney archives to find the most soul-sucking, mind-numbing scenes from the movies we know and surprisingly love. Cold-hearted villains, achingly raw heroes and heroines, and stingingly cruel acts like these can be harrowing to even watch. Go grab a blanket and a buddy, because we're about to get goosebumps. Like teeth-chattering actual goosebumps, because this list is all about temperature. This is the top 10 list of chilling moments from Disney movies. Number 10, Frosty Doggies, 101 Dalmatians. We begin our list with a really intense scene, and it's hard to imagine where we'll go from here. Look at those pups shivering in the snowstorm! Watching those furry faces try their hardest to escape Cruella de Vil in the cruelly devilish sleet is painful to watch. Temperatures in London can creep below 0 degrees Celsius during winter weather such as this, and that's just too cold for a little pooch. Multiply that by 100 shivering pooches, and this scene starts to get extraordinarily chilly. And don't forget the wind! Just recently foaled, and they are not very old. These pups are too cold. Number 9, Nippy Nightgowns, Peter Pan. When Wendy, John, and Michael follow the mischievous Peter Pan to Neverland, they are horribly unequipped to handle the journey.
Second star to the right and straight on till morning.
Does this mean they'll have to go into space? Or at the very least, will they be nearing the atmosphere? These toddlers are only wearing thin pajamas, for goodness sake. And where are their oxygen tanks? Lung capacity aside, the night air might not be that severe, considering the summer season. However, flying altitude temperatures can reach as low as minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and they only get colder the higher you go. But there is magic involved, so the constraints of their mortal limitations may be a tad broader. However, they are cruising at an altitude of 40,000 feet for at least 8 hours before they reach Neverland. So yeah, that's pretty chilly for these innocently unaware kidnap victims. Here's a real-world example. In 1862, James Glacier and Henry Coxwell traveled to record heights in a hot air balloon. As they reached 30,000 feet, however, the freezing temperatures and low oxygen caused both temporary paralysis and loss of consciousness. It was only due to luck that the two men managed to survive. The Darling Children's pixie dust trip might not have been as fun as we thought. Number 8, Log Cabin Fever, Snowball Express. In this movie, Johnny receives a mysterious inheritance from a distant relative, and he eagerly travels to the Frosty location. Unfortunately, the gift is vastly different than he expected. A runaway snowmobile cuts our hero to the core, effectively numbing both Johnny and a shocked audience. Miserably bitter, he is trapped in a frozen nightmare. A pernicious cold permeates the entire plight, easily putting this movie at number 8. Number 7, Chiens de Neige, Snow Dogs. In this movie, Ted receives a mysterious inheritance from a distant relative, and he eagerly travels to the Frosty location. Unfortunately, the gift is vastly different than he expected. A runaway dog sled cuts our hero to the core, effectively numbing both Ted and a shocked audience. Miserably bitter, he is trapped in a frozen nightmare. A pernicious cold permeates the entire plight, easily putting this movie at number 7. Number 6, Outdoor Survival, Pooh's Grand Adventure. It's winter, and the sun sets painfully early. You curl up on your bed for the night, but the brisk night air envelops your small form. You try desperately to retreat into your blanket, but you are left bare. You slumber restlessly to the torture of tiny ice demons snapping at your feet. Are you shivering yet? And you're only imagining it. Poor Rabbit actually lives out this horror right before our eyes. Hypothermia aside, if Tigger wasn't such a dummy, and if Pooh wasn't in the middle of an emotional crisis, he just might have gotten a decent night's sleep. Number 5, a Tchaikovsky Tundra, The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. In this movie, Clara receives a mysterious inheritance from a distant relative, and she eagerly travels to the Frosty location. Unfortunately, the gift is vastly different than she expected. A runaway mouse and key cuts our hero to the core, effectively numbing both Clara and a shocked audience. Miserably bitter, she is trapped in a frozen nightmare. A pernicious cold permeates the entire plight, easily putting this movie at number 5. Number 4, an exposed truth on an exposed cliff face, Mulan. Every plot device used to make a scene brutally frigid is present. Lack of protection from the wintry elements? Check. Skin contact with crystalline precipitation? Yup. A muscly, brutish, beautiful secret love interest's icy departure? You bet. The historical facts about the mountain battle were also not in Mulan's favor. Based on the ballad of Hua Mulan, and some inferences on the modern-day locations, the Han army would have traveled from here in Mongolia to this mountain near Hohhot in China, where they met General Shang's troops. At that elevation, the temperature would have been around minus 35 degrees Celsius, and sitting next to a measly fire would have done little to assuage the cold. If Mulan hadn't been so cool to begin with, this probably wouldn't have ended as well as it did. It's too bad that blanket of snow did nothing to dampen Shan Yu's rage. Number 3, Frostbite, Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2, the movie. Yes, that's how you say the title. Among all the cloaked figures and keyblades, 2 things stand supreme: friendship and popsicles. But mostly popsicles. Take a look at those uninhibited chomps on top of a 100-foot clock tower. To really appreciate the chill, please enjoy the Don't Flinch or You Lose Challenge, Popsicle Edition. Number 2, Feel the Shiver, Feel the Rime, Cool Runnings. This Jamaican bobsled team is about to face a stinging reality. Let's start with a mini science lesson. When we feel hot or cold, we aren't actually perceiving the temperature of our bodies. Instead, we are recognizing the transfer of heat. Shivering or sweating depends entirely on the temperature difference between ourselves and our surroundings. To apply this to our lovable friends, Jamaica has a year-round temperature of about 300 kelvins, while Canada averages at minus 15 Celsius in the winter. This wonderful example of thermodynamics tells us the protagonists experience a minus 75 degree Fahrenheit heat loss. That's chilly! Though their numbness probably would have helped with the crash. And finally, if you have made it this far, you may want to grab a mug of your favorite hot beverage as a source of much needed warmth, because it is time for number 1. Beware the frozen heart, we are duly warned, as we are introduced to the Arctic landscape of Arendelle. Here lies beauty and danger, clear but equally shrouded. Elsa's darkest fears from days past manifest within her sister's heart. And yet, a far colder force lurks in the shadows, hastening the end of a dimly lit hope for restitution. As Anna fights perilously against her ice-sculpted demise, Hans's sudden depravity stuns us all. We watch as her body succumbs to his bitter betrayal, all warmth extinguished in this coldest of Disney scenes. But the #1 chilliest Disney moment is actually Anna's frozen underwear. Yikes!
It'll be okay.